1 week season, fam, La Familia. Welcome to DFS Labs Fanduel Edition, Week 11. We are here. We are over past the halfway point of the NFL season. We have a fun week. There's no Jonathan Taylor once again on the main slate. And for your fantasy teams, if you've been riding him, apologies. You're going to have to figure this one out without him. But this week 11 main slate, it's a fun one. Happy Jameis Winston week to those who celebrate. We've got a lot of different dynamics. Marvin Harrison Jr. just announced he had emergency appendectomy. He will be out this week, which means Trey McBride will probably see 20-plus targets. I'm somewhat kidding, but also it's going to be pretty wild. But we've got a couple of NFC West showdowns with the 49ers, Cardinals, the Seahawks, and Rams. We've got a bunch of high-profile wide receivers on the slate. We have a rematch of that wild Bengals-Steelers game we had from a few weeks ago. And then we also have the Bucks and their pass funnel defense facing the Bills and their, train wreck of an offense, I guess, for lack of a better term. And then the Vikings and Bears and NFC North showdown. We're getting to kind of the breaking point for some of these teams as far as playoff aspirations and some teams that are, I wouldn't say desperation mode, but they definitely are in spots where a loss would put them in quite a tough predicament for making the playoffs. With that said, I will bring in my esteemed co-host, Maximus. How are we today? You're muted. There you go.
My turn.
Yeah.
So I love your background. You're in the mountains. You're wearing an orange hat. Have you become a Denver Broncos fan over the course of the week, sir?
No, but maybe a bit of foreshadowing there.
Don't know about that, but yeah, man, looking forward to this week. Thanks for sharing that news, the Marvin Harrison Jr. I didn't know about that, so that sucks. Hope obviously that is successful and he's able to get back on the field.
Usually we record this and then the news comes out like 3 hours later. So it's nice for one of them to come ahead of us.
Yeah, right. Because we're already at a disadvantage with the Wednesday practice reports, not getting those yet. But yeah, looking forward to this week. I think we had mentioned 11 games, but it was actually 10 games last week. I think I gave a wrong number. It actually is 11 games this week. And there's some game environments that look appealing to me. There's some game totals I feel are a little suspect. It's interesting because Vegas this time of year, usually you can kind of lean on Vegas when it comes to that kind of stuff as you get later in the year. But I think there's a couple things that on the face of it look a little suspect. But as far as last week, I think you had a pretty good one. Did you not?
Yeah. I finished. I had a lot of sweats. I didn't take anything completely down, but I did have several sweats. In the flea flicker, I had a lineup that took, I believe, 32nd. That's the out of 83,000 entries. It's kind of their main primary tournament. So in that contest, let's see if I can pull it up here quickly. Took 32nd, I believe. Here we go. Yeah, 32nd. Here, I'll share my screen quick. It was a Davis Mills double with Dalton Schultz and Nico Collins. Had Gibbs and Achane in that lineup. Had Juwan Jennings, Ted McMillan, Trey McBride were the other pass catchers, and the Ravens defense. Obviously, Tet, the one that didn't quite get there at 2.8% ownership. I was hopeful with how that game played out, kind of opposite of how most of the people felt with Rico Dowdle, but getting Tet, he played a full allotment of snaps, getting him at sub 3% at 5,700 as a wide receiver one felt pretty good. And then, the double tight end, obviously I had McBride, Jennings, and Gibbs going late, and all of them were, helping me make a little run at it. I had another lineup, finished 112th actually had Marvin Harrison Jr. in it. This one probably was the most live, had Harrison and Devontae Adams, both of which, I like their ceiling. I actually talk a little bit about this in the workshop, the Inner Circle podcast this week. I had some opportunities in that. I also in the where are we at? In the afternoon only contest, took 34th in that contest with 206.86 points. Of course, that's only the afternoon contest. But again, kind of was in the hunt there, didn't quite get there. But between those two, and then I was in the hunt on the Fanduel, the $55 tournament. It was one of those things like basically that one, I had 6 guys going in the afternoon slot and they were all smashing. But just the way those games went, the game script, basically all the teams kind of shut it down late. So either way, kind of heating up, had a lot of sweats and kind of putting myself in position. And that's, 4 straight profitable weeks. And 3 of those have been in the hunt in large field GPPs. So knocking at the door, hopefully I'll kick it down soon.
Oh yeah, it's coming. Yeah, I had a pretty good week too. I had on the 5-entry max, I had a team in 40th or 40th something. That was a Jared Goff, Gibbs, Amon-Ra stack. And then, I had one of the two, I forgot if it was Travion or A-Chain. I had one of them on that team. Didn't have both though. Was starting to, obviously Jameson Williams would have been in hindsight, probably would have got me even further up. But, Amon-Ra still did well. But yeah, no, it was a decent week for me as well, and looking forward to now on that Harrison Jr. news. That may steer my ship a little bit different on where we're going to start today, but whenever you're ready.
Yeah, I'll quick. We'll bring up the bottom-up build from last week, week 10. User DM Branca was the winner with 162.92 points. He had Marcus Mariota and Jalen Lane, played both Lions running backs, Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, which was pretty creative, I thought. Got into that. They combined for almost 50 points. Was also able to get Emeka Egbuka and Trey McBride in that lineup. Obviously getting both Henderson and Gibbs at that lower salary total. Once again, for those who are unfamiliar, bottom-up build, we try to build with a smaller salary cap. So it still allows you to spend $60,000, but don't. You're supposed to leave at least $5,500 in salary. Just kind of forces us to think differently about the build. What are the strongest plays? How would we approach a tournament or build a tournament lineup with that smaller salary cap? And like I said, it's kind of a nice way for me to kind of wrap my head around the slate and how I like to approach that specific slate. And then obviously for your actual lineups for tournaments for the big money, you can build off of that, spend that excess salary, but you have that kind of solid base of value and what you want to tap into. So with that said, though, we can get right into this week's build. So I'll let you take it away. Where do we want to start?
Great. A couple game environments. I was kind of toggling back and forth with what the start of this build would be, but gonna go ahead and land on a game environment. It's a good game total. It is a team that is at home again, and kind of having to draw their sword in the sand if they have any chance at any kind of postseason hopes later on in the year. So we're going to go ahead and start with the Minnesota Vikings offense today. J.J. McCarthy at a very good FanDuel price of $6,800. And I actually want to pair him with kind of a unique pairing of Aaron Jones and Justin Jefferson. Justin Jefferson, 8,600. It's actually at his cheapest price I've seen him at in quite a while. So J.J. McCarthy, while very inconsistent, of course, looking at the game log, he did have 42 pass attempts. He did rush for 48 yards on 5 attempts. So the potential is there. I actually was able to watch that game back and didn't think he looked as bad as what perception could be. He dropped some dimes down the field, like to Jalen Naylor early in the game. I felt Justin Jefferson dropped a couple key passes here and there and quit on some routes, or I don't know if quit's the right word, but just kind of went short on some routes. And then the other takeaway I had on the Aaron Jones front is it seems like he's definitely kind of taken back command of that backfield. He rushed for 9 times, but he did have 6 targets in the passing game as well. And I kind of like stacking these guys at home against the Bears. Definitely not a elite defense by any stretch. There could be a case to be made for a bring back, but I think I'll start this one actually with no bring back and maybe pitch it on to you to see if you would like to continue that way or maybe go somewhere else from here.
Yeah, I think that, you bring up a good point with Jones. He had kind of split work in the past, but now this past week he had 46 snaps to Jordan Mason's 16, so about a 75-25 split there. He had 14 opportunities to only 5 for Mason. You mentioned the Vikings, kind of where they are at in their season. They're now at 4-5. They are in 4th place in their division. The NFC has a lot of teams with very good records right now. So the Vikings, playing the Bears, who are already ahead of them, their schedule remaining is, it's not great. Their next 2 games after this, they have the Packers and the Seahawks both on the road. So this is a really huge game for them to take care of business at home. And they can't, we were talking a little bit about this before the show between us, but they don't have the luxury of the issue with Aaron Jones isn't talent. It's always workload, and will they lean on him enough? But he's clearly their best option. And this is a very good matchup, and they need him. So I really like Aaron Jones, one of my favorite options this week. It's Wednesday afternoon, so we don't know what ownership will be. I'm really not concerned about it. His pass catching chops, he scored a goal line touchdown last week. I really like pairing him and McCarthy. And then, I'm not sure where I'll be on Jefferson, but I'm never going to fault anyone for pairing him with their starting quarterback for sure. I don't think for the Bears, I don't think that we have to play somebody as a bring back. I think unless we get some injury news that we don't have at this moment, they're playing 4 wide receivers. They are playing multiple tight ends. They're playing multiple running backs. So, there's 2 paths to this with the price tags of Jones and McCarthy. You don't have to have this be a shootout for this stack to really come together. You've got all the main pieces here. And if it does become like a 31-28 type game, that could spread out among the Bears guys. It's not like you're for sure. You don't know who it would be, first of all, that would hit. And it's rare that with their salaries, unless, like I said, unless there's some injury news that comes out later in the week. But with the information we have, I don't think we have to force it. The other game we were talking about before, why don't we go ahead and we brought up Marvin Harrison Jr.'s out. Let's go ahead and throw Trey McBride in there. And then Jawan Jennings, I know you were very high on him. He's kind of back to full health. That Arizona-San Fran game, it should project pretty well. I think that little mini correlation there makes a lot of sense. And then I want to go ahead and throw in the Falcons defense as like our cheap defensive option. Kind of a misprice. I'm sure they'll be very popular, but so be it. They're 3,300 at home against Bryce Young. They got stomped. First time they played Carolina, that was largely just their offense had some turnovers. But seeing the Saints defense kind of take it to Carolina, I think we could just throw them in as a cheap one. We can adjust if we want from there. So, we've got 3 spots left with 7K remaining. Do you have a specific player, a running back, or receiver that you want to throw in next, and then I'll pick one, and then we can talk through the flex?
Sure. Yeah, real quick on that Skinny. I love the McBride call, especially now. He's tight end 1 on the year at this point, and we'll see if Bowers can catch up maybe throughout the course of the season. Of course, that game's on Monday night, but Bowers has a good matchup coming up against the Cowboys. But yeah, I love Juwan Jennings there. $6,200 for a wide receiver 1, which he is at this point. We don't know about Pearsall, still kind of battling some injuries, trying to get back. Brandon Ayuk, his 21-day window has not been opened yet. And Jennings has scored in consecutive weeks. He had 9 targets last week. So it seems like Jennings is kind of back to, the standard that we've come to see him on the ceiling end going forward here until maybe they get more pieces back. So I like that. The Falcons defense is who I initially had with my practice build too on the cheap end. Division game. I think they already played. Yeah, they already played this year. So 7,000 left. If we wanted to go high end on running back, I really love Josh Jacobs this week for the Packers. I think he's kind of back from that injury. He did rush 21 times. He got in the end zone, and probably the only bright spot of that Packers offense on Monday. They did play the Eagles, but I think the Emmanuel Wilson stuff was more because Jacobs was not quite back to full health yet, and they were kind of trying to ease him back in. And I think against the Giants, that's a team where, Green Bay, maybe leaning on him pretty heavily, at least early on, to kind of get them back on track. They've kind of lost a few head scratchers, well, at least one head scratcher. But on the high end, Jacobs, that does leave us right around that 6,000 mark for the rest of the team. So on the high end at the running back spot, out of the names I'm seeing, I kind of steer towards him. And then, there is some value, though. If you go a little bit lower, I like Jaylen Warren for the Steelers. Obviously, whenever you're playing the Bengals, that's always a target defense for the rushing attack. Warren's, the eye test wise, looked really good, in my opinion, over the past couple weeks. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, Tomlin came out and said, in essence, that they want to get him more involved going forward. Those would be on the high end and lower end 2 candidates I'm thinking about. What about you?
Yeah, I think that's fine. Jacobs was your initial instinct. I think that's, this Giants run defense has been real bad. And the Packers kind of are, of course, they're in my backyard here. They are reeling. They've lost. I made a joke in like a group chat with a bunch of buddies today. I said, little known NFL rule, the Packers actually have to fire their head coach if they lose to Flacco, Bryce Young, and Jameis all in the same season. But all jokes aside, they do have to take care of business here. Jacobs is clearly their best player. Their receiving core is actually really beat up right now. I think Romeo Doubs actually got hurt on Monday night. We had Tucker Kraft is already out. Christian Watson is playing way more than I think they probably wanted to be playing him this early in his return. So I think that's fine. And then I like going the Jacobs route because that lets us talk about, we'll throw in Darius Slayton and we can talk about Jameis. It was just announced this morning, Jameis Winston will start for the Giants, who, of course, they fired their head coach, Brian Daboll. Rookie quarterback Jackson Dart has already been ruled out. I think it's just a matter of, we know Jameis is gonna chuck it, and Slayton is kind of that primary outside receiver. He left the game for a little bit last week, but he's really just been knocking on the door. Has no touchdowns this year, which with his skill set, I was talking about this with Alec Pierce a week or two ago, just like that's going to change. And I do think this is like Jameis will let it rip. So I think this is a spot where pairing him with Jacobs makes a lot of sense because if Jacobs is smashing and the Packers are doing well, he's going to be cutting it loose. Might throw some picks. Actually, will throw some picks. I'll go out on a limb and say that. But he'll also complete a few passes as well. So I like that little correlation. And then that leaves us with 6,100. So is there anyone that you see in that range? I know where my vote is, but I'll let you share with me what you see, and then we can kind of debate and discuss.
Yeah, Darius Slayton was on his way to a big game last week before that injury, and that was with Dart. And to your point, we know what Winston's going to do. He's going to chuck it. Slayton is the deep threat. I think the prospects of Slayton have actually been upgraded for Winston and maybe also for the Packers defense. But what a weird correlation that could possibly be. But the flex spot, so we got 6,100 left. I would say that the problem now is, so you have Parker Washington and Jacoby Myers for the Jaguar receiving crew, and Parker Washington's looked awesome, but you figure Myers is going to get, he had a touchdown called back, I think, and Myers, then Jacoby, didn't he?
It was a weird play, so you won't see it in the box score, but he caught a touchdown, but there was a false start. So the play didn't even happen. So there's the whistle. It was one of those weird, the whistle blew, but nobody heard it. So they kept playing and he caught a touchdown, but technically there wasn't even a play. Like when McManus tried that 64-yarder the other day.
Right. Oh yeah. That's funny. I could see that being a route. If we want an exposure to the Bucks, Bills, you have Shakir there. You have Tez Johnson a little bit further down at 5,900. That's what I'm seeing on the face of it. If there's somewhere else you're seeing that maybe is lower than that, and maybe we pay up a defense or something, I'm curious what your take is there.
Yeah, so I love this week. I want to be ahead of things with RJ Harvey. J.K. Dobbins may go on the injured reserve, but he's definitely, from the sounds of it, he's going to be out at least this week. I think Harvey is just super explosive. It's obviously a big matchup. The Chiefs aren't they are not an easy defense. This isn't a great matchup, but with the price and he's going to get all the base work. He'll probably give up some third downs to Tyler Bidet, but he's going to be, it's like Travion Henderson with the Patriots where, that wasn't a good matchup on paper with the Bucks last week, but you see, these explosive guys, all it takes is one plays or two for Henderson. But I want to be in on that, especially when we have a roster that kind of puts us in that range. I just see him as having being mispriced for, the potential role that he could have. That's kind of my take on it. And I think the Chiefs, they have the perception of being this shutdown defense. They really haven't been that this year. They're still good, but they're not a pushover. But they're not what they were the last year or two, where it's don't play running backs against the Chiefs. So Harvey's the guy that stands out to me from that range. And I guess that's kind of where I'm at. And then, to our earlier discussion, if you wanted to get the Packers defense in there, you could bump up from the Falcons to the Packers and come down off Jacobs to one of those running backs, maybe get Jaylen Warren. A lot of options there. I think I like how we have it, though. What are your thoughts on Harvey?
I knew the hat in the mountains was a foreshadowing. I love it, man. That's a really good call. Apparently, Dobbins, they may be putting him on IR, which would suck. There's talk of that. Yeah, he's another eye test guy, kind of like Travion Henderson. And, he kind of the times I've seen Harvey, when Peyton decides to use him, he's definitely, kind of stands out, the speed and the skills. So I love Harvey there. I believe he's also late, so that's good for the flex spot. 5,800 for what will probably be a starting running back at home. And yeah, Kansas City not as imposing maybe as they had been in the past on the rushing attack. So yeah, really good call. I like Harvey there. Leaves us with 300 to kind of maybe just have for late swap purposes, or maybe one of these receivers. Like, let me see real quick. Darius Slayton's at 5,800, so 61. Yeah, you can move up to Shakir, I guess, for Buffalo. He's got a floor, but not much of a ceiling for tournaments. So yeah, I'm with you. I like the way we have it as well.
Nice. Quick, we had a question in the comments. Willis Jones, what you talking about, Willis? Willis asked, do you think they double McBride with no Harrison? So I think this is a good question, and it's something that a lot of times people will worry about, but also it's not as simple as that, right? Like, football is a game of numbers. It's a game of a hat on a hat. It's not as simple schematically as just putting a second guy on him. Now they can shadow some guys, but also the way McBride is used, the way he can be moved around. The 49ers are a team. They don't generally blitz a lot. They play a relatively high percentage of zone coverage. So, it's not like they can shade coverage his way, but also the way he's being used, the way he gets moved around the field, it doesn't necessarily matter. And it's not as simple as, the old, if you've ever seen those videos of Calvin Johnson, where teams would legit just they'd have two cornerbacks right on him on a play from inside the 5. It's not that simple anymore, and teams kind of exploit that. So obviously he's going to get more attention. I was joking when I said the 20 targets thing, but I mean, it's going to be like JSN, where he has that just massive target share, and they just find ways to get him the ball. And he's been playing so well that, these are still NFL players. You can't just not cover people. So yeah, I think he'll get attention, but this 49ers defense also, I mean, the Rams, I think they probably could have scored over 50 if they really wanted to at the end of that game. The Niners were not slowing them down. So yeah, I'm not really worried about McBride. Basically, he's getting access to another wide receiver this week, in my opinion. So yeah.
Go ahead.
You go.
Also, Willis, it's funny because historically the 49ers would be a team you would steer away from the tight end, but no Fred Warner, the Niners are unfortunately depleted on their defense. No Nick Bosa. So, not quite of a situation where we have to avoid. And to Mike's point, McBride, they're just kind of like JSN. They're just going to get the ball to him all over the field. And then one more tributary real quick with the $300 that we have left over if doing multiple entries. If you wanted to go off Josh Jacobs, you could get up to Bijan Robinson at home, pairing him with the Falcons defense. And I think that, fears of Algier, I think, are creeping in more over the past few games. But, Bijan's still capable of interruption, especially at home. And that would be another way to allocate the rest of the salary if you wanted to go that route.
Good shout there. And a lot of times I don't like pairing an expensive running back with their defense. But when the defense is this cheap, then it definitely makes sense. For sure. So I like that correlation. Shout out there. But for those listening on the podcast feed, the final roster we have here is a JJ McCarthy double stack with Aaron Jones and Justin Jefferson, a mini stack of Josh Jacobs and Darius Slayton in that Packers-Giants game. Go Jameis. Another mini stack with Juwan Jennings and Trey McBride in the San Francisco-Arizona game. RJ Harvey in the flex in the late window, and the Atlanta Falcons defense picking on the little guy, Bryce Young. So with that, once again, check us out, oneweekseason.com. We do have our Inner Circle membership for the rest of the year. I believe it's at 40% off now. that takes you all the way through the Super Bowl. A lot of things going on there. So check us out, oneweekseason.com. You can find us on Twitter. You're probably watching us on our YouTube channel, but we've got a pretty cool Discord as well, where we're talking about things all the way through Sunday lock. So with that, I am Mike. He is Max. We are 1 Week Season. Thank you for joining us. We will see you next week.
1 Week Season.